Tonight, Israel's prime minister promising Israeli ground forces will move into Rafah. That is a direct response to President Biden's comments on Saturday, saying that such a move into Rafah would be a red line. He was asked directly in an interview on MSNBC Saturday what would be a red line with Prime Minister Netanyahu. It was asked specifically whether an invasion of Rafah, which of course President Biden has urged Prime Minister Netanyahu not to do, whether it would be a red line. Take a listen to President Biden's response.
It is a red line, but I'm never going to leave Israel. The defense of Israel is still critical. So there's no red line. I'm going to cut off all weapons so they don't have the Iron Dome to protect them. They don't have. But there's red lines that if it crosses, and you cannot have 30,000 more Palestinians dead.
Joining us now is Florida Democratic Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Congresswoman, it's good to have you with us tonight. As I know you've been made aware, just a short time ago, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu remarks were released in an interview that he did with Politico in a German news outlet, and he said specifically in regards to this, I'm quoting the Prime Minister here, "We'll go there. We're not going to leave." He said, "You know, I have a red line. That red line is October 7th, and that it doesn't happen again." What are your main concerns? What is your initial reaction at this hour to this very public back and forth between President Biden and Prime Minister Netanyahu and what it could mean?
Well, Erica, thanks for having me. And my reaction is this. What I know and what gives me confidence is that there really isn't a country in the world that we have a closer relationship with where our intelligence officers and our military leadership are working side by side each and every day and are able to communicate effectively about operational decisions and next steps. And so this is a nation in which we are aware, and they are aware of where each of us comes down on the military decision making. And that's incredibly helpful so that there are no surprises. President Biden made it clear in his comments this morning that he is not planning on conditioning our assistance in terms of the defense of Israel, making sure that we have the Iron Dome in place, that Israel has the ability to continue to defend herself, that she has the right to do that, while also underscoring that the death toll in Gaza is significant and that we need to make sure that that's addressed.
To that point, he did say, and as we just heard from him, that this would be a red line. But in the words of President Biden, which we just heard him say there, and I'm quoting, "I'm never going to leave Israel. The defense of Israel is still critical." That being said, the fact that President Biden went on the record saying this is a red line, Prime Minister Netanyahu came out and said, "Too bad, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, right? This is my country. I'm going to make these decisions." Do you believe there needs to be some sort of a consequence or further reaction from the president, given the fact that he said this is, in fact, a red line?
What I believe, Erica, is that Hamas needs to release the 134 hostages, and as well as the bodies of the deceased who died in their captivity. What I believe is that Hamas needs to end the threat that they represent to Israel's very existence, that they have committed repeatedly. And people keep forgetting this, or it's shoved aside because with the distance of time, that they are sworn to have October 7th be the first, but there'll be a second, a third, and a 1,000th time. And so, look, there's no country on earth, including and especially the United States, that would tolerate conditions like that, and neither should or is Israel. And so this can end tomorrow. It could end in 5 minutes if those conditions are met. So let's make sure that Qatar and Egypt and other countries that have sway with let's make sure that they use their leverage and help get the hostages home, including the 6 American hostages that are still in captivity, and ensure that that threat ends.
You mentioned the situation on the ground for civilians. Bernie Sanders said this morning, Senator Sanders, that President Biden needs to make it clear, in his view, that the U.S. support for Israel does, in fact, have some limitations. Here's more of what Senator Sanders said.
The United States of America cannot be complicit in this mass slaughter of children. What you can say to Netanyahu, stop the slaughter, no more money to Netanyahu's war machine to kill Palestinian children.
President Biden yesterday in that same interview, when he was asked about a red line, he went on to say 30,000 additional Palestinian deaths would be a red line. Do you also see that as a red line?
What I see is that we have to make sure that Iran, who is obviously tied closely to Hamas, Hezbollah, aren't able to declare victory, because this was all part of their plan. They intended and knew that Israel, rightfully so, would respond forcefully in their defense. And their goal, by using civilians as human shields, by putting their people in harm's way, they don't really have the same value for human life as most other civilized nations in the world do. And this is all by design, Erica. They want to turn the world against Israel. And we have to make sure that while making sure there is humanitarian assistance and the hunger that is growing is addressed, that Israel has the threat removed, that Hamas, as the terrorist organization that it is, continues to represent, and hostages are released. Both things have to happen, and the world, and the Arab world in particular, needs to lean in on Hamas and its allies and ensure that we can have peace. We don't need to be talking about conditions in the United States on our aid. We need to be talking about putting worldwide pressure on this terrorist organization who is holding 134 people in captivity.
There is, obviously, those hostages need to come home, right? There's so much talk about a ceasefire. There's talk about how that is connected. There is also a very real conversation about aid and what we have seen in terms of starving and malnutrition among civilians. I was struck, my colleague Clarissa Ward was reporting in the region this week, and I was struck by an exchange that she had, and I just wanted to play part of that for you.
They should get only the minimum calories required to survive.
They're starving to death.
They are not starving.
They are starving to death.
You know what? If they're starving to death, give the hostages back. No, a single loaf of bread should go there till our hostages are coming back.
What would you say to those women?
What I would say to those women, I know that there are Palestinians that believe and that are fed up with Hamas, that just want the violence to end that they are experiencing. And they are victims of Hamas as well. What I would say is that Speaker Johnson needs to put the national security package that includes aid to Israel as well as humanitarian aid to the Palestinians on the floor for a vote. He knows there are 300 plus votes in the House to send that bill to the president, and he refuses to do it because he cares more about staying in power than he does about the suffering of the Palestinian people, and he does more about the protection that we need for the people of Israel, and cares more about holding on to power than he does about making sure that hostages are released. This is an outrage. We could send this assistance from the United States tomorrow when we go back to Washington and vote. Speaker Johnson needs to put that bill on the floor. He's been playing political games for months. It has to end.
Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, appreciate the time tonight. It's good to have you joining us on the Breaking News. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good to be with you.